What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Discuss Peacemaker. This episode, we're going to be covering episode 4. My co-host Brian is here. How you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. And episode 4 is called The Choad Less Traveled. It was written by James Gunn, directed by Jody Hill.
Those of you who might not know, Jody Hill was kind of famous for doing those like Danny McBride movies in the early 2000s, like the Foot Fist Way and Observe and Report. So I thought that was kind of funny, kind of matching James Gunn and the kind of irreverent sensibility. So I think it'll be really interesting to kind of dive into that here. But if you guys are interested in seeing our coverage of episodes 1 through 3, we do have a breakdown video where we go over some history for the Peacemaker, some of our feelings on James Gunn as a director, and then our kind of review of episodes 1 through 3 as a whole. That should be linked up here. If you guys want to see even deeper dives of those, we did a deep dive on each one of those episodes, about an hour-long podcast for each. You can do so on the Dis Media, which is linked in the description below as well. What we're going to do now, guys, we're going to go into a scene-by-scene recap of the episode and kind of go into a little deeper on our analysis of that. The scene opens, the show opens, we're back in the electrical van that they made their escape in when they did that coup, I guess, or I forget, like an attack on the senator's house.
And they start talking. Yeah, they start talking to Peacemaker, going, "Hey, you got rid of the butterfly. You got rid of it." He goes, "Yeah, I got rid of it. Me and Vigilante made sure we killed it. We took care of it." And you see Vigilante kind of like nursing his toe, his pinky toe. He's kind of making a big deal about it. He's like, my toe's kind of busted. And one of the things so it's just a bunch of like those back and forth, and then Judomaster falls. And it's my favorite scene. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about that quick, and then you could do your recap. Is like when they both point the guns at him, Vigilante and Peacemaker. Vigilante aims for his dick, and Peacemaker aims for his head.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, like how they're aiming the gun at him when he's just incapacitated on the floor. So I thought that was really funny that they're both like aiming at different parts of his body.
Right. It definitely highlights kind of their dynamic, Vigilante and Peacemaker's dynamic, that kind of is expanded upon in this episode too, that I'll get to. But yeah, so then it goes into the opening sequence where then we'll go back to headquarters. So we're back at their kind of crappy headquarters where they're kind of debriefing after everything that occurred and trying to kind of figure out what their next move is. I think what I liked about this initial scene too was it looked like Jody Hill did a oneer for the most part, so it was a really one take, kind of like the camera just kind of tracking through the headquarters. There, which I thought was fun. It highlighted everything there. It really kept the pace up in the scene. And then so they're kind of debriefing, and they do that one shot, and then Murn talks to Peacemaker in the hallway, and Peacemaker, he kind of asks him what happened, because if you remember in last episode, he kind of froze up when he was supposed to kill the kids. So he kind of asked him what happened. And I think in this instance, Peacemaker just says, "Look, it's just because you're having me kill kids or whatever." And he says, "Is that it?" And Peacemaker kind of pauses and says, "Yes." So I think Peacemaker is kind of lying to himself about maybe why he's hesitating and hasn't really come to grips with that. I think they're maybe setting that up as a character arc for him. And then also they announced that Vigilante is now kind of part of the crew. They feel like maybe he's more of an asset than he is a liability. And that, if he were to not be part of the crew, they would be kind of worried about him screwing them over to some capacity later on. So what do you think of this scene, kind of establishing those things and the whole like visual parts of the one shot? And then also, do you agree that you think Peacemaker might be lying to himself and hasn't really come to grips with why he might have hesitated in that shot?
What I liked about the series so far is like Peacemaker is trying to make amends with who he is and his past actions. And I love the fact that when him and Murr having the conversation where Murr's like, "Are you good? Like, are you good?" He's like, and his excuse is still the same. There is no double piece on the sniper rifle. How can you expect me to do my job without the double piece? And it kind of harkens home to like those guys that like they brag, but they always find an excuse why they can't do something because they don't want to admit the true thing. And with Peacemaker, you have to think about like the mindset. Okay, his dad's a racist. His dad's a well-known racist as the White Dragon. He has his expectations of who he's supposed to be, and now he can't be that expectation. He can't be that person. So it's kind of unique how they're using that as his crutch of why he can't complete a task and why he's becoming more normalized compared to Murn and all the other characters. Because everyone's like, yeah, we could kill a kid if it's a butterfly. And Peacemaker is like, I don't think I could be that person anymore. And it's unique to see how he struggles with that and going through all the struggles, and Vigilante becomes part of the team, and it helps him come to terms with a lot of this stuff. So I kind of like how this episode focuses more on the superhero perspective of trauma and
Hmm.
dealing with that trauma.
Yeah, and that's also mirrored in Adebayo, Leota's
Yeah.
character, because she is also kind of going through a traumatic experience where maybe she
Yeah.
hesitated and didn't kill somebody as well, and she's kind of getting chewed out for it in the same manner. So it really kind of connects those two characters together, having gone through that in the same kind of team.
Yeah.
There's also another obscure comic reference that I wanted to see if you were aware of too, which is I think Matter Eater Lad. Do you know if that's a real
Yes, he is
Matter?
a yeah. Matter Eater,
So
that is real. And they I love the series because they always drop like these random comic book references.
mhm.
That's amazing. And another thing that I didn't pick up the first time when I was watching the episode, the video store actually has a lot of references to trauma and independent movies.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of like the movie posters and stuff like that are trauma movie posters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, but the show is very much
Yeah.
that's kind of the fun fan service of the show is these little obscure references to Matter Eater Lad and stuff,
Yeah. Like the
which are
jetpack.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
the jetpack and all the obscure references to Batmite and that kind of
Batmite,
stuff
doll
before.
maker.
So I wanted to say too, because the next scene cuts to Adebayo. She's talking with Diebeard or John Economos, I guess is what his name is.
Yeah.
She's talking to Diebeard and kind of commiserating with him about their expectations as being part of the team and stuff like that, and he's restraining Judomaster to like what looks like a futon, which doesn't seem like a
Yeah.
smart move for that kind of person anyway. But I really do like Diebeard. I do like the actor that plays him. I think he's funny and he has really good lines.
Adrian Chase, the guy that plays Vigilante, that's not the first thing. They actually had to reshoot half the series because the original actor that they chose for Vigilante just didn't work out.
Oh, really?
So they had to, yeah, so they had to reshoot and redub a lot of scenes.
Yeah, I think they made a great choice because we're about to get into that scene now. Vigilante
Yep.
and Peacemaker in the car, and they're having kind of a dialogue with each other after the whole torture scene that happened in the bottom of Senator Goff's
Yeah.
mansion. And I really love this interaction between the two. And I think I kind of immediately gravitated towards. I thought the actor that's playing Vigilante does such a great job. I think he's so animated and he plays that
Yeah.
character so well as this really socially awkward, reserved, but like all at the same time kind of badass character. Um, and it kind of he kind of mirrors Peacemaker in that aspect where
Yeah.
they're both really weird kind of misfit people, but they're so adept at what they do and they have such a
Yeah.
really good skill set. So you kind of feel like how they would be connected and how they maybe get along is because they're both kind of misfits outside of their superhero
Yeah.
personas and they kind of get along in that aspect.
And what I like about what I like about them one is like they both complement each other where like they respect each other's skill sets, but at the same time they just make fun of each other as much as possible.
Hmm.
And when they get up to Peacemaker's house and the flag's upside down, he was like, "Why is your flag upside down?" And Peacemaker's like, "Well, I don't know. My dad's just he's like that." And it kind of harkens back to a lot of those things of like he was fighting for the approval of his dad, and like he doesn't know why his dad does these things, but he follows in that footstep because he just wants to make him proud.
Yeah, it also highlights that and maybe this is kind of him realizing it in this episode and maybe the episodes to follow that
Yeah,
he's been kind of having blinders on when it comes to his father and maybe not seeing from an outward perspective how kind of terrible that situation really is just because he's been so close to it. So I feel like this episode is really highlighting like I don't think you realize how awful your dad is, and I think he
yeah,
hasn't. I think he's been so close to it and it's been such a normal part of his life that maybe he doesn't realize when he takes a step back how like awful that
yeah,
situation is. But they're kind of showing like he's not there's nothing redeemable about him. He's like the worst person in the world. So
yeah,
it kind of
exactly.
highlights that. So yeah, he does get I did like the interaction with him and Vigilante. They get to the father's house, AG or wait, what's his name? Is that his name?
Augie,
Augie. Yeah, Augie. It's tough.
Augie Smith.
Steve Agee and then the character Augie. So yeah, Augie Smith, the White Dragon. They go to his house. Peacemaker's going there to get his equipment, like his helmets and stuff from his lair there.
Yeah,
And yeah, they pass by the TV and there's kind of a fun little little bit of exposition there that I thought might obviously will come into play, I think, at some point. But
Oh
they
yeah.
say that a silverback gorilla has gone missing, and I immediately just kind of laughed and went, "Oh no!" Like I know they're gonna have a gorilla here, and I'm wondering, am I crazy for thinking this might be a Grodd thing?
Um,
Would I be like insane to think that they may be
not
doing something with Grodd? Because
necess.
he's a DC villain, right?
Yeah, Gorilla Grodd's a DC villain. Charlie the Gorilla, he might. Oh, Sergeant Gorilla Charlie. Okay, so it looks like it's part of the Misfits. Yeah, yeah, because Gorilla Grodd's a different. He comes from a different place where intelligence
Yeah.
in gorillas is a mainstay. It's like the Lost Kingdom of. Okay, that's actually a DC reference. It's another
Oh, cool.
minor, super minor DC character they got name dropped.
Yeah, they walk by the TV. They mentioned that a silverback gorilla is missing, and we realize that that's Charlie. You said the gorilla Charlie. That is that they may be
Charlie the
introducing a
Gorilla.
more Charlie the gorilla, a more obscure DC character. That maybe it will get expanded upon. I mean, I'm assuming it will. He wouldn't mention that on the TV like that unless they kind of came through that. I do love his layer design. I thought it was really cool. They give an explanation as to what's going on with the layer as Peacemaker opens the door. But I love the design of it. It's very kind of classic comic book style. It reminds me of kind of very Fortress of Solitude-y, kind of feel to it. With like the kind of cityscape looking exteriors and stuff in there. He tries to grab all the helmets, and we see this really awesome, not awesome, but we see this really imposing, I guess, white dragon costume that
Yeah,
that Vigilante comes in and comments on. That seems to be his dad's kind of alter ego. So we're kind of introduced to his kind of superhero alter ego there with the white dragon costume. And then he explains, what's going on with the room. He says it's a quantum unfolding storage area. Um, and
room of
and
requirements.
yeah, kind of like the room of requirements, which you mentioned in our deep dives. And yeah, their whole dynamic between him and Vigilante just kind of like messing with each other is very
Yeah,
much like they're little kids. They're both like 8-year-old kids playing superhero and like fighting with each other. And I think it's kind of refreshing and fun, just that whole interaction.
their dynamic is really neat because he acts like the brother that Peacemaker never had, and
Hmm.
they reference that he had a brother, but they don't say what happened to his brother. So Vigilante is like the younger brother that he's always wanted, and because he gets looked up to, so it's a really great dynamic. Just harking, like piggybacking on what you're saying, that you could tell that there's a older younger brother sibling
True.
rivalry plaything there with them.
Yeah, it might be filling a hole for both of them with each other.
Yeah.
So we get another great scene with do you
Oh,
know the character's name, the neighbor?
he's just the neighbor. He doesn't really have a he wasn't really part of like any comic books or anything like that. So he's just a neighbor.
He's just a really annoying neighbor that seems to be giving them a hard time, but he comes in and he starts kind of questioning Peacemaker's superhero status and thinks he's kind of a fraud. And he talks about how Batman has all this big rogues gallery of villains that he fights, and that because Peacemaker doesn't, he's not a real superhero. Um, I thought that was a fun interaction, and then Peacemaker's kind of explanation is just like he kills people, very Punisher esque. He kind of just kills people and says like, Batman's a wuss because he puts people away and they just break out and start committing crimes again, and kind of gives the the neighbor kind of crap and tries to defend himself for that. I also love their little. I don't know if this is an Easter egg or not. Anytime I've heard the term candy ass, I always think of The Rock.
And that's lay the smack down on your candy ass.
Because The Rock was kind of made famous for that in wrestling, and I just think it's apt that James Gunn casts a wrestler as Peacemaker and then has him call something candy ass.
Yeah.
And I also think the character feels like a kind of backyard wrestling kind of persona. And then that's when he finds out that his father is in jail. So this is when he kind of makes the call to
Yes.
Murn. He gets very annoyed that his father was put away, and says that he's going to essentially go visit him, which can cause some problems for the team
Yeah.
because it could mean that his father, once he kind of knows that it's all a sham that's got him there, he can easily plead his case to get out.
Yep.
But yeah,
And
what did
he's
you think of what were your thoughts on the scene from when they get to his house? They go into like the quantum unfolding room, and then they have the fight with the neighbor and everything. Did any stuff stand out to you about those?
No, it was just very well done. It was a very good scene where it sets up who the characters are. You have the interactions between Peacemaker and Vigilante, where Peacemaker has to start coming to terms that maybe his dad is a racist.
Mhm.
So it starts putting things in perspective for him. The White Dragon suit was very impressive, like the way that the design of it and like how intimidating it is. It's really I really like the room requirements. I like how they explain what it is, the like a quantum dimension and the that neighbor, him and the interactions that neighbor has with Peacemaker and his dad Augie are some of the best jokes because they just go off of each other and he's like he's trying to defend himself like I'm a superhero and the old guy's like well Batman's a superhero was like well I'm a better superhero. I was like well Batman doesn't kill anybody. You do. You're a killer. And it just reinforces those type of tropes that does a hero kill? Does he like
Right.
starts questioning the mythos of what is a hero. Is it someone and Peacemaker counteracts the whole Batman thing is like, yeah, Batman captures these prisoners and then they get out.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that they do not get out. So
Yeah, he
it's kind
puts
of
them 6 feet deep.
yeah. So that's a very big comic book controversy is if Batman killed, is he Batman or is he a killer?
Mm-hmm.
And is the Punisher a good guy or a bad guy? Because the Punisher kills people. So it kind of puts that argument that comic book fans have been having for so many years in a visual setting. So it's kind of unique to see from the old man's perspective and Peacemaker's perspective what makes a hero
Yeah.
and whose definition of a hero is true to them. So that was a really great conversation. And then when he finds out his dad's in jail and he calls Murn, it's like, why is my dad in jail? And it's just like it's a really great, like, well, we
We
had a
kind of messed up.
problem.
Yeah.
We messed up. We weren't wanting to tell you, but you found out. So crap. So
Yeah.
that was really good to see that type of interactions and just to see how they're afraid of his dad, like how powerful his dad truly is. And you start seeing that in the previous episode, and you start seeing it more this episode where they're like kind of like, this guy is trouble. We don't want to deal with him. And it starts leading up to that type of villain that he is going to be an issue down the road type stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question too. So obviously, I think we're gonna get in a future episodes, we're gonna get some kind of silverback gorilla at some point. I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion at this one. And maybe
Yeah.
I can save that for our predictions. But the other thing was, do you think the quantum unfolding storage area, now that they've kind of established quantum physics kind of in this world and kind of
Yeah.
this in this context, do you think that's going to kind of play a part in the kind of finale and in the future of the series? Is kind of this they for some reason either Peacemaker and his father, whoever knows his father or whoever kind of built that room, knows how to kind of manipulate quantum space. Do you think that that kind of physics and science is going to make a comeback in the later parts of the series?
Well, it's probably gonna make a later part in the series, but it helps establish the DC's multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
So having been able to establish the multiverse like that so early on in the series, that can mean that there's different realities. You could bring in like Earth 2, Earth 3, like different versions of these characters down the road for different series. And this might also open up the Arrowverse to make an appearance in this one. So bringing in the quantum dimensions, it helps bring in usher in like more of Earth 2 Supermans, Earthboy Prime, like that type of stuff. So it's gonna be I like how they set it up, how they pretty much introduced like yes, there is gonna be a multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna be play prominent in the future? Who knows? Maybe the gorilla turns out to be Gorilla Grodd. We don't know.
Maybe.
So it's
Yeah.
gonna be really so it's nice that they started doing that and they started making it known that hey, there is a multiverse.
He had a little like dash ornament that had like a little bunny
Yeah.
that said opportunities. Is that an Easter egg to something, or is that just kind of
Yes, it
supposed to be?
is.
It is.
That's an Easter egg to there's two Easter eggs involving that. Rick Flag shirt in Suicide Squad was of the same bunny.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it actually references Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny. Pretty much it's knocking on Guardians of the Galaxy when he got fired from it.
It says obstacles are opportunities.
Yes.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's actually making fun of Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel with that. And it was referenced in Suicide Squad. Rick Flag shirt. Evan's shirt was of the same bunny when he was leaving the apartment to ID Peacemaker originally, and then his dad. And now we see the dashboard ornament of the same bunny
So yeah, it cuts from that scene. We go back to the HQ headquarters where Murn is now having kind of a heart to heart with Adebayo, and pretty much saying
Yep.
that he really didn't believe in her, and that she came highly recommended from Waller, and he really needs her to, because she's the closest to Peacemaker and she's the one he trusts the most. She needs
Yeah.
her to talk him out of visiting his father in prison, and that she needs to kind of prove herself in this moment here. And then we get a quick scene where we see that Judomaster has awoken, and that he seems pretty determined to get out of his
Oh yeah.
pretty elementary kind of restraints that Diebeard threw him in. So it didn't seem like he was gonna stay in that very long. So it goes to the scene where Adebayo confronts Peacemaker in front of the jail and starts telling him that he needs to not visit his father, and that even though they kind of messed up, that she's kind of pleading to him and trying to make him see how awful his father is in this instance, which is, it seems like a trend in this episode is them trying to break down his maybe warped view of his father, and his reliance on, oh, what, he's related to me, so like I have to help him.
Yeah, it deals with the whole thing like, blood is thicker than water, and family ain't shit.
Mhm.
Family's family, but family could still be crappy people. So it's a really unique perspective that they're trying to break of the mindset of a small town of like hero worship, and like trying to get over the fact that sometimes family is not good for you. Sometimes family is horrible and you need to see it.
Yeah, and this is a very common theme, or this is really, I think this is probably one of the most common themes in any James Gunn property, is this idea of a surrogate family, and that maybe
Yeah.
your family not fulfilling its duties and how it's supposed to, and kind of misfit people kind of finding each other and that turning into a family.
Yeah.
This seems to be like a through line to pretty much most of all of his properties, is this idea that family's what you make it, and family's like your friends and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff that you can build with other
Yeah.
people.
Exactly. Because in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, you see Peter finally meets his dad. He's all enthralled. He's like, oh my God, my dad's a planet. He's a god. And then he finds out that his dad's actually a really, really horrible eternal being that wants to take over the whole universe. And then he
Um,
finds out that Yondu was like his true father type stuff. So
exactly. And then yeah, so we get a really funny interaction with Adebayo and Vigilante, where he's trying to kind of play off the fact that he's Vigilante and kind of maintain his secret
yeah.
identity in the worst possible way, and he's kind of failing in every moment in that. I thought that was a pretty funny interaction where he's faking his voice and trying to make his voice sound different after the fact. And we get a scene with Robert Patrick and John Cena in the jail. So we get
Interrogate.
Peacemaker and his
Yeah.
father, and this is where Peacemaker's kind of apologizing for the situation that his dad's in. And yeah, he gets nothing from his dad. His dad said, and I quote, "I should have slit your throat out of your mother's cooch." I was just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." And then Peacemaker kind of makes a really funny analogy with being a grower, not a shower, and then
Yeah.
he's somebody that like grows on you, and like maybe not immediately impressive, but he and then
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny. His dad like flames him for comparing himself to a little cock, he says. Um and then it seems like, I also thought another funny moment in that scene was Peacemaker, the way that he's trying to get his father on board is by saying, "Look, I know you hate illegal aliens, but these are real illegal aliens." Of like,
Yeah.
like the way he's trying to get his racist white supremacist father to kind of buy into this is by just like saying, "Oh no, like we have like actual illegal aliens," you know.
Yeah. What I liked about this scene also is the double standards that his dad has, because when he's like, well, I'm gonna tell the cops on you, I'm gonna snitch on you, he goes, well, snitches get stitches. And his dad kind of looked at him like, well, yeah, but screw you, I don't care about the rest of the world, I only care about myself.
Yeah.
Because in that type of situation you have to like think about what's the greater good, what's best for everybody. Like there's an alien invasion and you being in jail helps them fix it, you're kind of like, okay, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of like, oh, I don't care about an alien invasion. I just care about myself. I'm going to get out of jail no matter what I want to do. And just being called out like that, and he just kind of like, yeah, that doesn't apply to me. I'm above my own double standards. It
Exactly. Yeah.
just
He I think he verbatim says like, I'm no rat, but if somebody presses me, I'm gonna spill the beans on everything. And he's like, well, that's what a rat is. Like he's just like
yeah.
you just described a rat. So like that seems yeah, it seems like he contradicts any principles that he has in order to kind of uh for his own comfort or his own
Yeah.
selfish gains. So he doesn't seem very principled in him. I think that's maybe what they're highlighting in this scene. Vigilante and Adebayo are outside. She starts talking to him. She realizes that maybe she hasn't impressed and stopped Peacemaker from visiting his father like she was supposed to. So she goes to her next best bet, which is to maybe talking Vigilante into killing the White Dragon in prison. So she doesn't have to
Yeah.
push too hard. He seems pretty open to the idea, and he says he has to leave. And it seems like
Yep.
she kind of coaxes him to go take care of the issue. Um, and then as Peacemaker comes out, they kind of drive back. He is kind of in his feelings at that point, because of all the stuff that his father did and how it really didn't work out
Yeah.
to anything. And she's pretty supportive of him in that moment. It seems like he has kind of an emotional scene in the car where he realizes that, he's internalizing a lot of those like terrible things his father says about him and about whether he's actually worthless and stuff. So it seems like
Yeah.
he really takes that kind of stuff to heart. And Adebayo's kind of being supportive in that moment, and it really I think solidifies that they seem like the most connected characters in the show so far as like their
Oh
experiences.
yeah.
They seem like they have the most kind of in common.
Yeah. What I liked about the scene between Leota and Adrian was when she convinced him to kill Peacemaker's dad.
Mm-hmm.
You see her like the internal struggle, like you see the struggle that she was having, like of like, did I just send this guy to go kill another man? Like, did I just tell this guy to get arrested, go to jail, kill Peacemaker's dad to make life easier for everybody? When they open up, they talk to each other. You kind of see her deal when she's talking to Peacemaker, her deal with her own internal family issues, where her mom is not viewed in such a positive light, that she had this really great experience with her mom of like, she's very caring, she's very warm, she's very like this great person, but in reality, she's not a good person. She is not good at all. Like, she's horrible.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see her empathize with Peacemaker about that type of stuff. So that was a really great, like,
it's really great, and I think those two characters are kind of the core of the show. If I had to put one on it, it was like Peacemaker and Adebayo seem to be the core of the show because they mirror each other in
yeah,
exactly their arcs, I think, so far. So this show seems to be, at least through episode 4, the arc seems to be Peacemaker humanizing a little bit, right? So he was dehumanized really, and he was just like he said, he would kill women, children, whoever, as long as it
yeah,
was for peace when he was in Suicide Squad. And this show is kind of humanizing him, having him hesitate when he needs to kill somebody, having him start questioning his
yep,
father and his father's teachings and the things that he was taught at a young age. And it seems to be him questioning that. And at the same time, the show starts with Adebayo in a, like, obviously very in touch with her humanity and in a family and in a relationship with her
yeah,
girlfriend or fiance, I'm not sure. And then as this show goes
wife,
on, as she starts doing more of these things, she starts kind of losing some of her humanity, disconnecting a little
yep,
more. So it seems like they're both kind of having similar experiences, but they're both kind of polar opposites, so they really mirror each other really well. Um so they get a call while they're in the car, and it's from Diebeard, and he realizes that he's
yep,
really messed up and that Judomaster has escaped, and Judomaster kind of quickly takes him out as they're driving back. And
yeah.
then when they get back, they give him his inhaler. He tells him he's jumped out the window, and then John Cena goes out there, and we have a big rematch in the parking lot. What were your thoughts of the fight scene between Peacemaker and Judomaster and stuff, and kind of how it ended? If you wanna tell them kind of how the fight ends.
Well, there was two things. There was one thing that we didn't talk about was when Vigilante Adrian Chase gets arrested to go into jail.
True. Yes. Hmm.
That was by far my favorite scene. He goes to where the cops are, he grabs a trash can, starts dragging it, picks it up, throws it into the window. All the cops are like looking at him drag it. He's like, okay, time to get arrested. And he just goes and he gets arrested. And he's like, no big deal. And everyone's just kind of looking like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like, as the character itself, you expect that. Like, you expect like, okay, yeah, I can see him doing that just for shit, for fun.
Right.
So yeah, so that was really interesting. And then
I did real quick too.
yeah,
I did like the pacing of that scene. I like that they
yeah,
stretched it out and they really show him kind of pick up the trash can and walk all the way over there all slow. I thought that was I just thought that was bold because that could have been a really quick scene, but I like that they kind of let him
yeah,
breathe and they like we just like the border or not the we just like the prison guards were just like, wait, what is he doing? Like, what the hell is this guy
yeah.
doing? You know? And then when he just throws it up there, you're like, oh, he's getting himself arrested. It didn't click with me what he was doing until he actually did it. I was just like, wait, what's he putting the trash can over there for? So, yeah.
Uh,
So, what were your thoughts on the parking lot fight?
oh my god, I loved it. It was hilarious because you just see him kind of like he's on his game. He jumps out of the window. He doesn't fall. He's not falter. His mind is like on kicking his ass, and it is such a great fight that it. I just loved how it ended. I love the setup. I love everything of it, and it was fun. It was a fun brawler. You get to see John Cena fight. You got to see. I loved it. I
Yeah,
thought it was a great.
it's yeah, it highlights a lot of like the pro wrestling stuff that I've talked about already because this and I keep coming back to that with Peacemaker here because the show kind of has a pro wrestling sensibility, like a backyard
Yeah,
wrestling sensibility to it, with the kind of amateurish element to the show and the very kind of the very kind of off color, maybe lowbrow, conventionally lowbrow, dialogue and the way that they talk and the kind of immature characters potentially. And then it also has these kind of flamboyant costumes and their whole like
yeah,
personas and stuff. It feels kind of like a backyard wrestling kind of aesthetic, at least is what they're going for. So the fight scene was felt like different kind of wrestling styles with, and you have
yeah,
someone that's famous for being a professional wrestler as the main character, and then this one felt like kind of a luchadori kind of wrestling fighting
yeah.
style of him, doing hurricane ranas and trying
It,
to like punch and stuff like that.
more
I,
acrobatic, more.
exactly. So it was cool seeing those kind of clashing styles and their kind of quips back and forth and the way that they kind of are messing with each other and
F you,
calling him
F you.
yeah, he calls him like a shrimp and stuff. I thought that was really fun. But yeah, it ends with Adebayo kind of taking to heart what Hardcore said earlier in the episode about not hesitating, and she just shoots Judomaster right in the chest. It kind of got me for a second because I immediately went, "What? Did they really just kill him?"
Yeah,
And then you kind of see that he's still breathing, and I probably should have known better. But for a second, I did think that they just kind of like xed out Judomaster quickly to kind of stop that plot point. And
but
right
it.
before he gets shot, he says something about how the butterflies are not what
Yeah,
we think, which raises that question there.
yeah. My favorite. It's my favorite throwaway line in this series so far, and it just shows how ignorant Peacemaker is to society and how he gets all his information from like movies, entertainment. Is when he goes, no, he's a judo master. Yeah, no. What's gonna happen is his kidney's gonna move up to his heart,
Yeah,
take its place, and start pumping blood. Ow. And they're like, no,
yeah,
that's not how it works. Yeah, don't worry. All these judo guys, they know how to do this. Don't worry. It's an ancient secret. They just do it as if it was nothing. And it's such a funny thing that like that's what he legitimately believes in.
yeah.
And everybody's just looking at him like, no,
How
no,
insanely
that's
ignorant and uneducated he is that he's like, oh yeah, no, your kidney can replace your heart. That's what these judo masters can totally make that happen. But yeah,
yeah,
it highlights how and it makes sense. It makes sense with his character, given that every time you've walked into his house, he's had some kind of like Alex Jones equivalent thing on
yeah,
TV, and his dad's been telling him all this like crazy crap of his entire life. So it makes sense that he would be that kind of dumb and uneducated and ignorant about these
yeah,
things. But it is funny kind of him playing off the other characters where they're like, oh my god, he actually believes this. Um,
yeah,
we also get so I think in the next scene, so they say essentially Judo Master's not dead and that he's going to they're going to take him back upstairs and kind of try to heal him, I guess.
yeah,
And then we get a quick scene with Peacemaker going back to his trailer and I
yeah.
guess feeding Eagly, and then we get a piece of information which is that he didn't in fact shoot the butterfly.
Nope.
It's in a jar there, so he has kept it, but he maybe hasn't told the rest of his team that he's
Yeah.
kept it, to maybe kind of figure that out, and then also contextualizes what Judo Master was just saying, which is that there's more to the butterflies than maybe we think, or maybe there's a different side to the butterflies that we don't understand. So I think he's going to kind of take on trying to figure out what that is that he.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but
Then in there we get a really cool scene of Vigilante walking through the prison. Everyone's making fun of him, like, oh, new meat, new meat. Little bit of a, not really Easter egg, but just explanation. If it's not obvious, the what's on their shirt pocket is the shirt size that they wear. So that's why there's like the M's, the L's, the XLs, the double XLs. Those are just the shirt sizes.
Yeah, yeah. And so he's walking extremely cool through these like hardened criminals. It's so funny that just the juxtaposition of what he looks like and like his skill set, because
Yeah.
he reminds me of and I don't know if anybody watching this has also watched The Boys, but he reminds me of the main character in The Boys too, just in
Yeah.
kind of a very frail kind of white kid that looks more like he's a Best Buy Geek Squad employee than any kind of hero, you know? So yeah, he goes into prison and tries to kind of locate the White Dragon, and then we get a scene with Harcourt and Adebayo where Adebayo is kind of really having a hard time with the fact that she shot Judomaster and is wondering if he's going to survive it. And Harcourt gives her it's a very cliche thing. They give you the my first time I killed someone speech. I see that in pretty
Yeah.
much any kind of
Oh,
cop
yeah.
or procedural drama or anything. There's the first time I killed speech.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten over it? Nah, I still deal
Yeah,
with the trauma of it to
right.
this day.
It's a very tropey scene, but yeah, I mean, I understand why they do it. It's to kind of show the different moralities and the different character states, that each of them are in.
There we Leota admits that she convinced
Mhm.
Vigilante to break into prison and kill his dad, and they're discussing the merit of it, if it's a good idea or not, and then they're like, yeah, we should probably get him out of jail.
Yeah, and also yeah, he's very pissed. Murn is very pissed that, first it was Diebeard making that
Yeah.
call to put his dad in jail to begin with, and now he trusted Adebayo to go handle this situation, and instead she goes
Makes it
completely
worse.
overboard and makes the situation worse. So he's very kind of frustrated with that. Um I liked, and this is probably going to kind of be emblematic, or at least be kind of a wrap up to the show for the most part, at least thematically. But they talk about the Apple Dumpling Gang, and
Yep.
they describe it, and I think Diebeard says they're incompetent dinguses, and he says, yeah, but they
It
always come
gets
out
the
on
job
top.
done.
They always come out on top, and I think that's gonna kind of sum up. That's another thing that just sums up a lot of James Gunn movies about these misfit families that are incompetent
Yep.
dinguses, but they always come out on top. So I thought that was a kind of fun dialogue choice there to have them kind of reference that. Um, he also says, "Why is she says fuck you," and he says, "Why is everyone fucking you to me?" I like that line.
Yeah.
Why is everyone fucking you to me? So
Yeah.
it goes back to the prison, and Vigilante is trying to
Oh
infiltrate
man,
this, and
that's
he
the
walks right up to these kind of neo-Nazis at this table led by uh, White Dragon Augie, Peacemaker's father, and they're kind
I
of
just
laughing about some white supremacist shit.
love
And
this scene.
yeah, it was
I
great.
I I love it when he just sits down at the table, all like cracking up, like laughing, like ah. And he
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
"Okay, guys. So, what's the most important thing that the African American community has contributed to white culture? I'll go first." And he starts name dropping rock and roll, country music. That if it wasn't for the blues, none of that would be there.
Yeah.
And you just see them all get visually upset. And he goes to each one, it's like, "Oh, what's your contribution?" I just love like how cocksure he was that he was going to beat the crap out of all these guys,
hmm
and he knows how to piss them off, and he knows, like, it's just a really great scene. And
Yeah, he's saying
yeah,
all the kind of inflammatory talking points that would really piss off a neo-Nazi white supremacist group. So he's saying stuff
yeah,
like that, the African American community has completely contributed to rock and roll, and that none of it would exist without,
yeah,
that framework from before. And he starts talking about how they're all kind of inbred and all that kind of stuff. He's saying
yep,
pretty much everything that just trigger the crap out of these white
yeah.
supremacists and kind of force them to kind
You
of
had
fight
sex
him.
with
So
your cousin, you had
yeah,
sex with
yeah,
your sister. And
right.
I love the fact that like the only person who knows what he is doing is White Dragon, is
hmm
Peacemaker's dad, because he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to see how each one fell for it. And these are supposed to be like his lieutenants, his like right hand men, and they're incompetent. And it's kind of it kind of sets up that he like the closest thing that Augie's dad ever had as a competent person was Peacemaker, because
Yeah.
Peacemaker was always able to get the job done. So it's a really it's a great like shift to see how like how everyone around him is a complete and total failure, and then this guy comes out of nowhere and beats the crap out of his trusted lieutenants type deal.
Yeah, and he definitely takes out all three of those kind of lieutenants around him. But like you said, White Dragon does not fall for it. He says like, I know you're just trying to coax me into like hitting you
Yeah.
because I know that the camera will look like I'm the aggressor. So and then Vigilante says like, you're a terrible father, and I think that's when it
Yeah.
clicks for White Dragon that this is somebody connected to his son.
Yep.
And that he kind of starts screaming for Detective Song at that point, saying like, I need her. I'm gonna rat them all out. And
Yeah.
and that kind of obviously backfired and kind of blew up in Vigilante's face at that point. It then cuts to a bar scene with Harcourt is back at her kind of watering hole. She's looking to kind of chill out and get a beer, and then Peacemaker shows
Yeah.
up, and he's trying to find out what the information was in the file that they found.
Yeah.
So he's trying to figure that out and asks her, and she says, you know, it was just that your dad kind of forced you to do terrible things when you were a kid, and also that your brother died under mysterious circumstances and that you were involved. So that kind of highlights that kind of backstory exposition about maybe Peacemaker having to do something traumatic with his brother. And
Yeah.
that kind of leads into the next scene where it shows him kind of dancing and singing in his trailer, and we get some flashbacks to some traumatic events with him as a child, and then also some flashbacks revealing Peacemaker's brother. And what were your thoughts on that scene from like the like when he goes to his trailer and we get all those flashbacks and all that information, and the scene with him and Harcourt at the bar?
What I liked about the scene with him and Harcourt at the bar emphasizes a lot of the stuff with Peacemaker, how he is viewed in the team. Like the more and more people get invested in who he is as a person, the more they feel bad and sorry for him. Like each person who's gotten invested into him wants to make things better for him. And
Mm-hmm.
you see this with Harcourt, because you see Harcourt going like, I know why you're a mess up. I know why you're screwed up. I know why you're the way that you are is because of your dad. And you start seeing her realize that like he's not a bad person. He just doesn't know how to be a good person. He's been shitted on his entire life, and now he has a chance to fix it, and he has no idea how to fix it, and he's looking to other people to do it for him.
Yeah.
So that was a
Yeah.
really great, like, even though they don't say it, it just, you could feel it in like the way that she's just drinking, and she doesn't look back at Peacemaker, but Peacemaker's like, oh, maybe I could get like a little pity throwing the sheets. And he looks back at her like, hey baby, what's up? And it's not there, because he realizes, yeah, she doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, in her eyes, I'm just a complete and total mess up. And you just see him like dwell on it. And it goes right to one of the best scenes with him just getting blasted, cross-faded, blitzed, drunk with
Yeah.
a jack and stuff like that. And that's how he copes with it, because he doesn't know how to cope with life. And
Yeah.
he just, yeah, he's just trying to
He's got
find,
he's got such a
yeah,
fragile, bruised ego, and it just shows in that moment where he just needs some kind of acceptance. And obviously, in
yeah,
the first episode, he found the closest warm body he could find to try to give him some validation and some acceptance
yeah,
that he hasn't gotten from his father or any other members of his families for his entire life. And then obviously that turned out horrible. And it seems like he's trying to essentially do the same thing with Harcourt, but
yeah,
she's not biting for that, and that kind of leads him into this depressive episode. But yeah, it cuts between that. They have
yeah,
a kind of a sad song choice. He's kind of in his feelings, vibing out to the music in his trailer, and it's cutting between that. It's cutting to Adebayo rejecting a call from her significant other, kind
yeah,
of showing that maybe she doesn't feel worthy of love in this moment, and that she's kind of
yeah,
her humanity's kind of deteriorating here. And then also it cuts to Harcourt bailing out Vigilante out of prison.
yeah,
And it also cuts to Murn just kind of sitting robotically in his apartment. And there's, you know, Vigilante comes out. He seems very emotional that he thinks he might have made things worse. So he seems like somebody that also has a fragile ego and also kind of takes things a little more to heart than maybe he should in those moments. And then we get the
yeah,
flashback with Peacemaker where his dad is coaxing him to pretty much shank or stab this guy in like a whole bunch of times. and his dad's got a kick-ass mullet. It's just
I know.
I love the hair choices for Robert Patrick in this series so far. But yeah, he
They're
just kind of
perfect.
watches on, smiling as Peacemaker just stabs him, and I loved the intercut between that moment where he's stabbing this innocent person, and his dad's watching on, cutting to Rick Flag and Suicide Squad, and
Yeah.
showing kind of the same thing, and how Peacemaker's kind of joining those two things and those two events in his mind. So I thought that was a really cool scene. Um, and then it cuts, so it ends. The montage kind of ends. It shows him and his brother and their relationship, and then his brother seems to be like convulsing in what looks to be a shallow grave, as like he's foaming at the mouth and stuff like that, and it
Yeah.
shows kind of his demise there. And then we get the big reveal at the end, which is
Yes.
Murn is sitting there watching TV, looking kind of very emotionless and robotic. He pulls up a bowl and he does the same thing where the tongue drips down, and you realize that Murn's a butterfly. So Murn
Yeah.
was a butterfly this whole time. Which, if you guys have watched episodes 1 through 3, or any of the deep dives that we did, Brian called. He said that he thought somebody in the team would be actually, we both called it, because he said somebody in the
Yeah, we
team was
did.
going to be a butterfly, and I said I think it's going to be Murn, because Murn
Yeah.
was showing as very emotionally distant through the first scenes. He even talked about like how he had expressed feelings, which seemed very alien in nature when he
Yeah.
talked about how he was expressing feelings. And so yeah, Murn looks to be a butterfly, so it's really going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. And with what Judomaster said about that we don't know things about butterflies, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad guy, I think.
Yep.
And we'll get into that in predictions here. But with that all being said, we'll go ahead and hop into predictions. So after having seen this episode, is there anything that you think that kind of stood out to you where you think, oh, we're definitely going to see that in these next couple episodes?
I know this is a very unpopular opinion. To me, one of the best Marvel movies so far has been Iron Man 3, because it deals with the emotional trauma of being a superhero is not all that's cracked up to be, because you see Iron Man dealing with the ramifications of saving New York and the PTSD of it. So what I love so far about this series is how it deals with human emotions, how it deals with human trauma. I love the fact that they're focusing on these characters' emotions, their mental instability, and them working through it and them dealing with all that stuff. That, to me, that's a great sign of really amazing writing, really amazing character development. And I just love that the show centers around that, where you see where Leota, she ignores a call from her wife, from Kay, but she finds an important clue that
Kia, I
connects them
think is
all
her name.
together. Kia, yeah, sorry, Kia. Kia, and she finds the connections from everything else. Like, she's putting all her efforts into work,
Yeah,
and
so
she never did that
I
before.
wanted to
Yeah,
ask you about that, because I don't know if it clicked for me really, but what was the connection that she made with the card and the
it's all the same
badge?
company. It's the it's for the they both work for the same company, even though
Who
they're completely different people.
who works for the same company?
The chick from the first episode that turned into a butterfly,
Oh, okay.
her
So
and one
the
of the
two
other,
butterflies that they've encountered work for the same company. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it looks like the two butterflies that they've encountered, or some of the butterflies that they've encountered, are part of the same clique. So they're,
Okay.
yeah, so they're part of the same area. And
And this might go back to, for those of you that watched our first couple episodes too, this might go back to a prediction I had earlier, which is that whenever they introduce kind of hive kind of characters like butterflies, and they show that there's like a
yeah,
big hive network, the show eventually goes to like a center of operations, or some kind of like central figure where they can take down the queen of the hive and destroy
yep,
everything else. So this might be what that is. So if they show those that company
yeah,
seems to be in common between the two butterflies, that might be where the hive mind is located, that they can take out, and maybe take out the entire network of butterflies, as opposed to doing it
yeah.
one per.
And then for predictions, I either this episode or the following episode, they found out that Mern's a butterfly.
Mhm.
Um, I think they find out more about Leota. Like, a big secret gets dropped about one of the members. That's my prediction for the next episode. Outside of that, I think White Dragon gets out. Detective Song starts investigating Peacemaker, and it's going to start snowballing to like a really, really crazy, bombastic mess that they have to cover up by episode 8.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good prediction. I do think White Dragon gets out, but I think he maybe gets out. I don't know that he gets out stronger than he was before. They wouldn't show that suit if we weren't going to see Robert Patrick
Yep,
in it at some point. So we're going to see
exactly.
Robert Patrick in his White Dragon suit for sure. As far as predictions for me, I think, like we said, those cards that she saw, that company is going to be where the central figure of the hive mind is
Yeah.
located, that they're going to have to take out. I also think that in some capacity later on in the season, we're going to get something to do with quantum space. I think something
Yeah.
is going to happen where they're going to need to use some kind of quantum physics in order to solve a problem. I think they wouldn't have brought up his lair as having a quantum unfolding storage area and explain that unless it was going to come into play at some point. I think we're going to see a silverback gorilla in some capacity in the next couple
Yeah.
episodes as well. So we're going to see some kind of silverback gorilla. Charlie the gorilla, I believe, is what you said. How it kind of connects to and how that kind of connects to the comics. And we're gonna see more. We're gonna see more Peacemaker helmets. We've only seen the one actually activate, so
Sonic
we're gonna
Boom.
see X-ray vision or underwater breathing or whatever those other
And
kind
by
of
the way,
things are.
when he was picking up all the helmets, he did not pick up the one that gives you skibbies.
That's good. That was a smart move, I think.
Yeah,
that he didn't
definitely
do
smart
that.
move.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see that. I'm hoping we're gonna see more Eagly. There wasn't a lot of Eagly in this episode, so hopefully
No.
Eagly makes more of an impact in these next few episodes here too. But yeah, so we're having a really great time with it. That's gonna essentially wrap up season 1, episode 4, the Choad Less Traveled. We should be dropping the next episode when it airs next Thursday. So guys, keep an eye out for that. Right after you watch the episode, you should be able to hop on and see our recap for those. Again, guys, if you want to watch our coverage of episodes 1 through 3, we should have a video here that kind of tackles that and kind of go over the history for Peacemaker and our thoughts on James Gunn. And if you guys want to see more deep dives in each episode that we do, it is going to be available on the dismedia.com, so you guys can watch that. I think we did about an hour-long podcast for each one of those that you guys can check out. I've got movie reviews and stuff that are going to be coming up on the Disc Media shortly, so make sure to stay tuned to the website for that. And I think Brian's going to be having some TV reviews and stuff as well that should be posting.
Yeah, I'm going to have like 4 Peacemaker reviews, hopefully up and posted by tomorrow.
Awesome. So yeah, keep an eye out on that, and then check out our social media. We are on Instagram and Twitter at the Discuss Pod. So you can check us out there. Again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video. If you guys are watching on the podcast platforms and you want to see us in a more visual context, you can do so on YouTube by searching Discuss Peacemaker or the Discuss. And conversely, if you want to listen to us in a more passive capacity, you can do so on the podcast networks like Apple, Spotify, Google Play, anything like that. But that's going to wrap it up for me and Brian. We will see you guys next Thursday. And with the Eagly has landed, I think was our sign.
Eagly has landed.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.